Let me tell you something. You might be walking alone, but that does not mean you are lost. You might feel isolated, but that does not mean you are abandoned. You might not have a crowd around you, but that does not mean you are not chosen. Because hear me when I say this. Sometimes the greatest battles are fought in silence. Sometimes the people you thought were friends were actually holding you back from your purpose. And sometimes the people you thought were friends were actually holding you back from your purpose. Pause. Let that sink in. Then lower the voice. Make it personal. I know what it feels like to be overlooked. I know what it feels like to call out for help and hear nothing but echoes. I know what it feels like to sit in a room full of people and still feel alone. But let me remind you of something. Loneliness is not a curse. It is a training ground. It is where warriors are built. It is where visionaries are shaped. It is where leaders are prepared. Now raise the energy. Let the fire burn. David was alone in the fields before he became a king. Joseph was thrown into a pit before he became a ruler. Jesus himself had to walk alone to fulfill his purpose. So don't you dare feel sorry for yourself. Don't you dare cry over people who walked away. Because when you are set apart, it means you are set up for something greater. Stop looking at who left and start focusing on who's left. And if all you've got is you and God, then my brother, my sister, that is more than enough. Pause, deep breath, let the words echo in their souls, then finish strong. You might be a man with no friends today, but you are a man with a firmness. You are a man with a destiny. You are a man with power inside of you that no friend, no enemy, no situation can take away. So stand tall, walk bold, and own your season of solitude. Because soon the world will see the greatness that was formed in the fire of your loneliness. Somebody say amen. There comes a time in every person's life when the noise fades, the crowds disappear, and they are left standing alone. In that moment, many begin to question themselves. They wonder if something is wrong with them, if they are not good enough, or if they have failed in some way. But let me tell you this. Loneliness is not a sign of weakness. It is not a curse. It is not a punishment. Loneliness is a season, a necessary part of the journey, a process that shapes, refines, and strengthens you. The world has taught us to associate being alone with failure. It has conditioned us to believe that if we are not surrounded by people, if our phones are not ringing, if invitations are not pouring in, then something is wrong. But that is not true. Some of the greatest transformations in history happen in solitude. Some of the most powerful breakthroughs occurred when a person was left alone with nothing but their thoughts, their struggles, and their faith. Think about the seed planted in the soil. It does not grow in the open, under the bright sun for all to see. No, it is buried deep in the darkness, unseen, unnoticed, and covered. But beneath that soil, something powerful is happening. Its roots are stretching, its foundation is forming, and in time it will break through the surface stronger than before. In the same way, loneliness is not the end of your story. It is the soil in which your next level is being prepared. This season may feel uncomfortable. It may feel empty. You may find yourself longing for the companionship of others, for the conversations that once filled your days, for the friendships that once surrounded you. But what if I told you that this season is not here to break you, but to build you? What if I told you that being alone right now is not about what you have lost, but about what you are about to gain? Loneliness teaches you who you really are. When the distractions are gone, when there is no one to impress, no one to lean on, and no one to validate you, you are left with yourself. And that is where real growth happens. You begin to hear your own voice. You begin to understand your own worth. You begin to discover what truly matters to you. Many people fear being alone because they do not want to face themselves. They do not want to confront their insecurities, their doubts, and their weaknesses. But I challenge you to embrace this season. Instead of running from it, lean into it. Instead of filling the silence with temporary noise, listen to what it is trying to teach you. There is wisdom in solitude. There is clarity in stillness. There is strength in standing alone. You may feel lonely now, but you will not stay in this season forever. Just as winter gives way to spring, just as the night is always followed by the morning, this too shall pass. And when it does, you will emerge wiser, stronger, and more prepared for the blessings that are coming your way. So do not mistake loneliness for weakness. Weakness is needing constant validation. Weakness is being afraid to be alone. Weakness is depending on others to define your worth. But you are not weak. You are growing. You are evolving. You are becoming the person you were meant to be. This is just a season. And when it ends, you will not be the same person who entered it. You will be greater. There is a reason why some of the most influential, successful, and powerful individuals in history spent long periods of their lives in isolation. There is a reason why those who have achieved greatness were often misunderstood, overlooked, and even abandoned before they reached their destiny. Because isolation is not a curse, it is a calling. It is not a punishment, it is a preparation. It is not about being forgotten, it is about being forged. In a world that glorifies constant connection, noise, and validation, we are made to believe that isolation is something to be feared. We are taught that being alone means something is wrong, that if people walk away, if invitations stop coming, if doors close, then we must have failed somewhere along the way. But let me tell you, sometimes isolation is exactly what you need. Because not everyone is meant to walk with you on your journey. Not everyone is meant to understand your vision. And not everyone is meant to be part of your destiny. Look at history. The greatest thinkers, the most brilliant minds, the strongest leaders, they all had moments of deep isolation. It was in solitude that they found clarity. It was in silence that they discovered their purpose. It was in loneliness that they built the mental and spiritual strength they needed to step into their greatness. Isolation forces you to face yourself. When the crowd is gone, when the applause fades, when there's no one left to impress, you are left with nothing but your thoughts, your struggles, and your dreams. And that is where true transformation happens. Because greatness is not developed in comfort, it is forged in discomfort. It is not found in popularity. It is discovered in solitude. When you are isolated, you begin to see the world differently. You stop living for approval. You stop relying on others to tell you who you are. You start to listen to your own voice, your own intuition, and your own spirit. And that is where real power comes from. Think about the eagle. When it reaches a certain age, it goes through a painful process of renewal. It flies to the highest mountain, isolates itself, and begins to shed everything that no longer serves it. Its beak, its talons, its feathers. It breaks itself down so that it can be rebuilt stronger than before. And when the process is complete, it soars higher than ever. That is what isolation does to you. It removes what is unnecessary. It strips away the distractions, the weak relationships, the limiting beliefs. It forces you to grow in ways you never thought possible. And when your season of isolation is over, you emerge sharper, wiser, and more prepared than ever before. So if you find yourself alone, if you feel like you're in a season of isolation, do not fight it. Do not see it as a curse. See it as an opportunity. Because this is where your greatness is being built. This is where your strength is being developed. This is where you are being prepared for what is to come. And when the world finally sees the person you have become, they will not understand where you got your strength. They will not know how you made it through. They will wonder how you survived when you had no one but yourself. But you will know. You will know that it was in isolation that you became who you were meant to be. Isolation does not break you. It builds you. And when the time is right, you will rise, not as the same person who once felt lost and forgotten, but as the person who was forged in the fire of solitude and destined for greatness. There are moments in life when things are taken from us, people, opportunities, relationships, jobs, dreams we once held dear. And when that happens, it shakes us, it confuses us, it makes us question everything. We look at the empty space left behind and wonder why God allowed it to happen. We cry out asking, why did they leave? Why did this door close? Why did I lose what I thought was meant for me? But what if I told you that God is not punishing you? What if I told you that He is not trying to break you, but to build you? What if I told you that every removal, every loss, every unexpected shift in your life is not about taking something away, but about making room for something greater? Because when God removes, He does it to improve. He does it to elevate. He does it to realign you with His purpose. We hold on to things that were only meant for a season. We cling to people who were never meant to stay. We attach ourselves to places that no longer serve our growth. And when those things start slipping away, we panic. We try to hold on tighter. We fight to keep what God is trying to remove. But hear me when I say this. If something is leaving your life, let it go. If a door is closing, stop banging on it. If a person walks away, stop chasing them. Because God sees what you cannot see. He knows what you do not know. And when He takes something away, it is because it no longer fits where He is taking you. Look back at your life. How many times did you cry over something you thought you needed, only to realize later that it was never meant for you? How many times did you beg for something to stay, only to thank God later that it left? What we think is a loss is actually a blessing in disguise. What we see as rejection is really redirection. And what feels like the end is actually the beginning of something far greater. When God removes, it is always for a reason. Maybe He is removing a toxic relationship because it is draining your spirit. Maybe He is closing a door because He has a better one waiting. Maybe He is shifting your path because where you were going was too small for what He has planned for you. Think about a gardener pruning a tree. He cuts off branches, not to harm the tree, but to help it grow stronger. He removes the parts that are dead, the ones that are weak, the ones that no longer serve the tree's purpose. And for a moment, the tree looks bare. It looks as if something was taken away. But then after a season, new branches grow, stronger ones, healthier ones, more fruitful ones. And that is exactly what God is doing in your life. He is cutting off what is no longer serving you. He is removing the weight that is holding you down. He is stripping away the unnecessary so that you can step into the extraordinary. And yes, it may hurt. It may not make sense in the moment, but trust me, when God removes, it is because He is making room for something greater. So do not cry over what left. Do not mourn what God has already buried. Do not waste your energy trying to hold on to what He is asking you to release. Instead, trust Him. Trust that He sees the bigger picture. Trust that He knows what is best. Trust that He's leading you towards something beyond your wildest imagination. Because when God removes, He does not leave you empty. He fills you with something better. He takes you higher. He improves you, strengthens you, and prepares you for a future you cannot even see yet. So wipe your tears. Hold your head up. Walk forward with faith. Because your best days are not behind you. They are still ahead. And everything God is removing right now is just making space for the greatness that is about to come. There are moments in life when you will find yourself walking alone. Not because you are unworthy, not because you are forgotten, but because strength is built in solitude. Growth happens in the quiet, and some battles are meant to be fought without an audience. We live in a world that glorifies togetherness. Society tells us that the more people we have around us, the more valuable we are. That if we are constantly surrounded by friends, constantly in conversations, constantly in the mix, then we must be doing something right. But the truth is, some of the strongest people, the most powerful leaders, the most successful individuals at some point in their journey had to stand alone. Being alone is not a sign of weakness. It is a place where your strength is developed. When you are alone, you have no one else to lean on, no one to validate your decisions, no one to carry your burdens for you. And that is when you learn what you are truly made of. There is a difference between being lonely and being alone. Loneliness is when you crave the presence of others. Being alone is when you embrace your own presence and use that time to build yourself. Because the reality is, if you always need someone around to feel strong, then you are not truly strong. Strength is not about who stands with you. It is about how you stand when no one else is there. Think about the tallest trees in the forest. They stand strong not because they have other trees holding them up, but because their roots have gone deep. They have faced storms. They have withstood winds, and they have remained unshaken, not because of external support, but because of the strength they built in isolation. And that is what happens to you when you embrace being alone. You develop roots that go deep. You learn to fight your battles without waiting for someone else to fight them for you. You become unshakable, unstoppable, and unbreakable. Because your strength no longer depends on who is standing next to you. It comes from within you. Many people fear solitude because they do not want to face themselves. They do not want to sit in silence and confront their fears, their insecurities, their doubts. But let me tell you, if you cannot handle your own company, you are not ready for the battles that life will bring. If you always need someone to hold your hand, you will never learn to stand on your own. Look at the most powerful figures in history. They all had seasons where they had to walk alone. Greatness is not built in crowds. It is built in quiet moments of discipline, focus, and self-discovery. The warriors who stand the tallest are the ones who trained in the dark, the ones who sharpened their skills when no one was watching, the ones who learned to fight alone so that when the time came, they could stand strong. So if you find yourself alone, do not see it as a punishment. See it as preparation. Use this time to grow. Use this time to build yourself mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. Use this time to strengthen your foundation so that when life throws challenges at you, you will not crumble under pressure. Standing alone is not easy. It takes courage. It takes resilience. But those who learn to stand alone are the ones who rise above the rest because they do not rely on external support. They do not depend on validation. They do not break when people leave. So embrace this season of solitude. Let it refine you. Let it strengthen you. Let it teach you that your power does not come from the people around you. It comes from within you. And when the time comes to face your biggest challenges, you will not fall. You will stand strong, not because of who is with you, but because of who you have become. Not everyone is meant to walk with you. Not everyone is meant to understand you. Not everyone is meant to be part of your journey. And that is because your assignment in life, the purpose, the calling, the destiny that God has placed upon you determines the people who are allowed to walk beside you. Many times we try to force relationships, hold on to friendships, and surround ourselves with people simply because of history, comfort, or familiarity. But just because someone started with you does not mean they are meant to finish with you. Just because someone has been in your life for years does not mean they are part of your destiny. When God gives you an assignment, He also gives you the right people to help you fulfill it. And sometimes that means letting go of those who no longer align with where you are going. It can be difficult to accept that some people are only meant to be in your life for a season. You may have laughed with them, cried with them, celebrated victories with them, and shared your dreams with them. But as you grow, as you step into your purpose, as you move towards the calling placed on your life, you will notice something. Some people will naturally drift away. Some will misunderstand you. Some will question your path. And some will even try to hold you back. This is not a mistake. This is not rejection. This is simply a sign that your assignment is taking you in a direction that they cannot follow. Look at the greatest leaders, the most successful individuals, the people who made history. None of them had large crowds walking beside them in their most critical moments. The higher you climb, the smaller your circle becomes. The greater your assignment, the fewer people you can take with you. Because not everyone is equipped to handle the weight of your calling. Not everyone has the vision to see where you are going. And not everyone has the faith to walk with you through the storms that come with destiny. Think about an eagle when it flies at lower altitudes. It is surrounded by many other birds. But the higher it soars, the fewer birds it encounters. In fact, when it reaches a certain height, it is alone. Not because it is lonely, but because only egos are built to fly at that level. If you are trying to fly high, but you are surrounded by people who are only comfortable staying low, you will always feel like something is holding you down. You must understand that your assignment is too important to be compromised by the wrong company. If you spend your time with people who do not push you to grow, who do not challenge you, who do not encourage you to pursue your purpose, then you will never reach the heights you were meant to reach. Some people will not understand your drive. They will not understand your hunger for more. They will try to convince you to stay where you are because they are afraid to go higher themselves. But you cannot allow fear, doubt, or comfort to keep you in a place where you no longer belong. If you are serious about your assignment, you must be willing to walk away from anything and anyone that no longer aligns with where you are going. This is not about arrogance. This is not about thinking you are better than others. This is about recognizing that your purpose requires focus, dedication, and the right environment. Just as a seed cannot grow in the wrong soil, your dreams cannot thrive in the wrong company. So take a look at your circle. Ask yourself, do these people encourage me? Do they push me to be better? Do they inspire me to grow? Or are they distracting me? Are they pulling me away from my purpose? Are they keeping me in a place of comfort instead of pushing me toward my calling? Your assignment is too valuable to be wasted in the wrong company. Do not be afraid to let go. Do not be afraid to walk alone for a season. Do not be afraid to step into the unknown, trusting that God will place the right people in your life at the right time. Because when you truly embrace your assignment, your circle will adjust itself. The wrong people will fall away. The right people will come in. And you will find yourself surrounded not by those who simply exist in your life, but by those who are meant to help you fulfill your destiny. There are seasons in life when loneliness feels overwhelming. Seasons when it seems like no one understands you, no one truly sees you, and no one is walking beside you. It can feel like a dark, empty space. A place where silence speaks louder than words, where isolation feels like a weight pressing down on your soul. But hear me when I say this. Loneliness is not forever. It is a season, not a sentence. It is a moment, not a lifetime. And if you embrace it, if you allow yourself to walk through it instead of running from it, you will come out stronger, wiser, and more prepared for what is ahead. Because while loneliness is temporary, the growth you gain from it lasts forever. We live in a world that fears loneliness. People avoid it at all costs. They drown it out with noise. They fill their schedules with distractions. They surround themselves with people just to avoid being alone. But what if I told you that loneliness is not meant to destroy you? What if I told you that it is meant to develop you? What if I told you that the greatest growth you will ever experience happens in the moments when you are alone? Think about the strongest trees in the forest. They do not grow tall and unshakable because they are surrounded by other trees. Deep into the earth, deep into the foundation that sustains them. And that kind of strength is not built in crowds. It is built in solitude. When you are alone, you have the opportunity to reflect, to discover who you truly are, to confront the parts of yourself that need to change. It is in these moments that your mind becomes sharper, your spirit becomes stronger, and your purpose becomes clearer. Loneliness forces you to sit with yourself, to understand your thoughts, to face your fears, and to grow beyond the limitations you once had. The world's greatest minds, the most successful people, the strongest leaders, they all had seasons of loneliness. They all had times when they walked alone, when they felt isolated, when they had no one to rely on but themselves. But instead of running from that loneliness, they used it. They used it to sharpen their skills, to strengthen their mindset, to deepen their wisdom. And because of that, their growth became permanent. Growth does not fade. It does not disappear. It is something that stays with you for a lifetime. The lessons you learn in solitude will guide you forever. The strength you build in loneliness will carry you through every challenge ahead. The wisdom you gain in isolation will shape every decision you make. So if you find yourself feeling lonely, do not panic. Do not think that you are abandoned. Do not believe that this is how your life will always be. Instead, shift your perspective. See this time as an opportunity. See it as a season of preparation. See it as the moment when your roots grow deeper, when your mind becomes sharper, when your soul becomes unshakable. Because loneliness will pass. People will come. Relationships will form, doors will open, but the version of yourself that you create in this season, the strength, the resilience, the wisdom, that will stay with you forever. Loneliness is just a chapter, not the whole book. And if you use this time wisely, you will come out on the other side, not as the same person who entered it, but as someone who is stronger, wiser, and unstoppable. Every season of isolation, every moment of loneliness, and every removal in your life has a purpose. It may not feel good while you're going through it, but trust that it is shaping you into the person you are meant to become. The challenges you face in solitude are not meant to break you, they are meant to build you. The pain of losing people, the discomfort of standing alone, and the quiet moments of uncertainty are all part of your transformation. When God removes, He does it to improve. When He separates you, it is not to leave you empty, but to fill you with something greater. Your assignment determines your circle. And not everyone is meant to walk with you to your destiny. Some people were only meant to be part of your journey for a season, and their departure is not a loss. It is an alignment with your purpose. Stay alone to stand strong. Embrace this season, not as punishment, but as preparation. The greatest leaders, the strongest warriors, and the most successful people all had moments of solitude. They had to walk alone, grow alone, and strengthen themselves in the quiet before stepping into greatness. And above all, remember this: loneliness is temporary, but growth is permanent. The pain of today will pass, but the strength you gain from it will last forever. You are not alone. You are in a season of elevation. You are not abandoned. You are being prepared. You are not being punished. You are being positioned. So stand tall, walk boldly, trust the process. Because the very things that feel like setbacks are the very things that are setting you up for something far greater than you can imagine. Your best days are ahead, and everything you are going through right now is only making you stronger for what is coming next.